This talk that if he's not able to bowl, KKR should get some sort of a refund on what they splashed on him. What do you think about that?
I think you can't get a refund on a human being. If he's not bowling, he's not bowling. If he's injured, he's injured. You still pay the guy, right? I don't know. At least those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think you just gotta deal with the consequence at that point, especially if a player is injured. Like I don't really know the clauses with injury, but I would think if a player is injured, that's just bad luck.
Obviously, skipping ahead to Saturday, we got Delhi Capitals versus Mumbai Indians in Delhi. Obviously, we talked about Mitchell Stark obviously being injured, but we talked about how good the bowling lineup is for DC, as well as how well-rounded Mumbai is. Maybe a little bit more leaning better on the batting side, but that's a good matchup Saturday as well.
Yeah, probably a preview of a potential playoff matchup. And I know it's so early in the season, but these two teams are looking real good right now. And I think we may get a preview of what's to come. I feel it's going to be a close battle. I know it was a scratchy win in the end, but Cooper Connolly, the biggest splash they made in the auction, and he ended up delivering in the first game itself. He's only 22 years old. I know I've said before that I don't really rate him, but he is young and he definitely showed a lot of potential of being one of those players for the next 10 years in the way he batted, the way he was able to keep calm, handle the pressure as wickets were falling at the other and take Punjab to victory. Welcome back to the In Between Overs podcast. We're your host of today's play. I'm Taran.
And I'm Ishaan.
Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel.
IPL 2026 has started off, and oh boy, I think we are in for a great show. All teams have played thus far. The table is shaping up, and storylines have already started from the first game. We've had chases from the king himself. We've had Rohit Sharma looking like Rohit Sharma of 2014, 2015. We've had Baby Bob make the headlines. And we've seen some great performances from not only teams, but really good players as well. Taran, what are your thoughts on the first few matches of the IPL?
Yeah, obviously it's just the first week, but teams are shaping up pretty good. Players are already putting up some good performances. We're seeing some good games. It started off looking like every game was going to be a 200 plays 200 game, but then we saw some close battles, and we saw some games where it was low scoring as well, where CSK weren't able to put up that much. We saw in today's game, the day that we're recording, LSG just played DC, and LSG were only able to score 140. So we're seeing different scores, different pitches. Nice to see that bowlers are still having a shout in the games, because we noticed in the T20 World Cup that there were a lot of games where the bowlers didn't really have a chance. We had flat pitches. So we're seeing a good mix already with just a flurry of games so far. So I'm looking forward to more battles between ball and bat. I don't want to see 200 plays 200 all the time. That's not so much fun to me. Maybe call me old school. I love Test cricket, but I like seeing scores between that 150 to 180, and the game being a dogfight.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of do need the balance between bat and ball. And I think what's also great with playing in India is you do have the variety of pitches. I know a lot of people say Indian pitches are sort of one type, one dimensional, but we know the nuances between the Chepauk versus Eden Gardens versus, Wankhede, for example. So each pitch is a little different. And to your point, we saw that throughout the week as well with the scores. But yeah, it did start off with some high scoring games, especially the first game, SRH versus RCB, high thriller there. But then to your point, coming in today, some smaller numbers as well. Table shaping up, we got Rajasthan at top, followed by RCB, DC, then Mumbai, obviously getting their first opener home win since 2012. So they're off to a flyer. And then Punjab won again. And then obviously the bottom, unfortunately, CSK is at the bottom. I know we saw them quite often at the bottom last year as well. So tables obviously shaken up, only one weekend, only one game played amongst everyone. But I think it's a cool indication of sort of how teams are, because there was so much hype obviously going into the tournament that, looking at the lineups, looking at some of the players come in, it's good to see at least, some of the familiar teams and faces lifting their covers and showing what they're made of.
Yeah, a couple of teams that stand out to me already, KKR and Sunrisers Hyderabad. Their bowling attacks look weak, to say the least. and it's going to be hard for them to survive in this tournament if they don't get some quality in their bowling attacks. We saw that with SRH against RCB, looked a little toothless. I know they're dealing with some injuries. We saw that with KKR as well. They're a bowler short. They're an all rounder short. Like looks like they thought they were getting an all rounder in Cam Green, and they ended up getting just a batsman. Apparently, he's not allowed to bowl, and that's hampering them as well because their bowling attack looks weak. They have some injuries with Harshad Rana and a couple others, I believe, as well. Like it doesn't come to mind right now, but it looks inexperienced. They need some venom in that attack, and so do SRH. They look like the weakest teams right now from a bowling standpoint. They'll have to depend on their batting a lot, and then a couple of teams that stand out in terms of looking strong and looking like top four team already. Punjab Kings, they look better than last year. I know it was a scratchy win in the end, but Cooper Connolly, the biggest splash
Mm-hmm.
they made in the auction, and he ended up delivering in the first game itself. He's only 22 years old. I know I've said before that I don't really rate him, but he is young and he definitely showed a lot of potential of being one of those players for the next 10 years in the way he batted, the way he was able to keep calm, handle the pressure as wickets were falling at the other and take Punjab to victory. So Punjab's looking good, couple of good, sorry, they look good. They look strong with the ball as well with their bowling attack. I saw a Vaishak who looks like he's added
Mm-hmm.
some more depth to his arsenal in terms of different deliveries, and he looked really good in the depth bowling. And then another team that stood out to me was the Delhi Capitals. Their bowling
Mm-hmm.
attack also looks very good. I know we'll talk about Lungi and Ngidi. He's he's looking unplayable. We talked about him in the T20 World Cup. His slower balls are so hard to master in terms of picking it up. And Nicholas Puran was completely bamboozled by it. I was 10 years early into the shot and was clean bowled by that slower ball. So Delhi's bowling attack's looking good. Kuldeep had a good performance as well. So these are the four teams that stand out to me so far after week one.
No, and I think you hit it right on the nail. I think, you mentioned some of the players, but I think the overarching theme is a lot of skills are being shown so far in week one. You gotta have different variations in your bowling. You gotta have a good slower one. If the pitch is not helping you, you gotta have those variations. So to your point, it is looks like at least initially the skillful bowlers or skillful players are able to get the best of it. Now, in addition to all the teams you mentioned, one team that I'm going to mention that I think always sometimes gets overlooked because of how successful they've been is Mumbai Indians. I think a lot of people are underplaying the fact that Mumbai Indians, it may seem like they clicked in week one, and that never happens with them. I think one of the headaches they had, at least going into the tournament, was who do you start at the top? Do you start Rickleton or do you start QDK? Because obviously they have both in their squads. Both are essentially, very similar players, batsmen, wicketkeepers. They trusted Ryan Rickleton, and he looks like he's locked in for the year. Rohit Sharma, I know you got some comments in our earlier shorts about putting his name up for getting the most runs this tournament, but first game 78 off of 38 balls. That's a Rohit Sharma knock if I've ever heard one. And it does seem like from a Mumbai Indians perspective, again, we talked about the entire team. They're extremely balanced. And all you needed for them was to click and execute. And game one, it looks like they kind of did.
They have a solid team. From game one, they have a very strong bowling attack. They made some smart picks in the auction. They picked up Shardul Thakur, Lord Shardul, and he continues this knack of just taking wickets randomly. And he did it again, got a man of the match performance for that game with a three for. And of course, you have Bumrah in there. You have Trent Bolt, Hardik Pandya will always deliver. And the only question mark for them is the spin bowling. Stocks,
Mhm.
Mine Markande went for some runs and Gazanfar went for some runs as well. Although it was tough for the bowlers on that wicket. We saw that when Mumbai came out to bat as well. And then on the batting front, they didn't even need to play Sherfane Rutherford, who's looking like going to be their finisher. Him and Namandir seem to be their two finishers with Namandir coming ahead in this game. And their top five can walk into any lineup. I like the shout that you gave about Ryan Rickleton. I like that they continued with him. It was
Hmm.
easy to make that swap to QDK. He's also been in pretty good form. But I like that they kept that continuity with Rickleton, and so it looks like UDK is going to be a backup in unless there's an out of form or an injury. I don't know how he walks into this team.
Yeah, what a luxury to have QDK as a sub, right? So no, as you mentioned, some great highlights from teams. A lot of teams are shaping up early, which is nice. Obviously, there's some questions for some other teams, as you mentioned, with the bowling and the injuries. But now, like to quickly look at some of the key performances. I know we kind of glossed over them in the beginning. Let's just start from game one. King Kohli with a 50 chasing. That seems like a great start after coming back from a win last year.
Yeah, it's like the old cliche of wine aging better over time, right? And Kohli's just, I think now that he has a lot more time, relaxation time, time to be with his family, and only needs to focus on the game during IPL and one day cricket, that's probably helping him with his performances and the clarity. And you saw it again in this game. There was so much clarity in the way he approached the chase. The Kohli of old, he just does it like clockwork when it comes to chases. So it was nice to score another. It was nice to see another classic Kohli chase innings in the chase where he just held the innings together right till the end.
Yeah, classic Kohli there. One other thing, one other moment that we can talk about in week one, I think was pretty iconic was actually the matchup between CSK and Rajasthan Royals. We did see some swapping of players. Sanju Samson being, a big inclusion now of CSK, having played for Rajasthan, and now we had Jaddu, for example, playing for Rajasthan, having such a great experience, or sorry, such a great history with CSK. Obviously, both players having a different experience that game. Sanju, again, not making too many runs with the bat, unfortunately. Again, we know how good form he's in. He'll be fine. Jaddu showing some fire with some wickets and a send off to the CSK batters.
Yeah, that was interesting to see that send off. He had definitely a good debut against them, and he's obviously playing his old team, so he probably had more fire within him to put up a good performance. And you saw that in the way he bowled against Sharon Dubey and his celebration of his wicket. Definitely let out some emotions there. Overall, I thought Rajasthan looked really good. They're one of those teams that have a very strong bowling attack, especially in the pace department. And now they've gotten some quality spinners as well in Ravi Bishnoi and Jaddu. So they're shaping up to look very good. CSK, I know it's game one. I feel like they'll come back. They have a few question marks, not only in the batting but also in the bowling. The batting, the middle order doesn't give you that sense of safety that Chennai teams of the past used to give, with the middle order that used to consist of Hussey, Raina, Ambati Rayudu,
Shane Watson.
Shane Watson, right? Definitely a team that has flipped the script on. Usually we're a team with a lot of experience, and now
Mm.
they're with a team who have a lot of youth and not so much experience. Although number seven's still there, he's out for injury, but maybe as soon as he walks in, they turn around and start putting up some good performances.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, speaking of experience, one player who by age doesn't have a lot of experience, but seems like he's batting with a lot of experience is who we call Baby Bob on the pod. How was his knock in his first game of the IPL this season?
Yeah, just turned 15. Happy birthday to him. It was a phenomenal performance. Just walks out to bat against one of the best bowlers in the world right now in Matt Henry, and your favorite old bowler in Khalil Ahmed. Just takes down CSK's attack like it was nothing. If he continues stringing performances like this, it's hard to not see him make India's T20 squad. At least just be in an amongst the boys, as our friends over at the TGC podcast like to say. Just hang around with the boys, get that exposure to international cricket. And I think if he keeps up this form, it's a matter of time.
No, I totally agree. It's exciting to see his future in the Indian squad. And hey, just to go back to what you were saying, Matt Henry actually went for 0 for 40 and Khalil Ahmed went 0 for 17. So it was a big difference in those runs there. But hey, to your point, Matt Henry really got butchered in the power play by Baby Bob there. So, shout out to Sooryavanshi there for those big runs. We are talking about, obviously some key players, some key performances. We mentioned him in the earlier pod as well. Big player for Kolkata was Cameron Green. He's not bowling. Now, do you anticipate this maybe working its way out throughout the season, where he eventually bowls, or do you actually, you know, as what our friends at the TGC say, scam Green got the better of Kolkata?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Apparently Cricket Australia, the management there don't want him to bowl for the next little bit. And so maybe it's just a temporary thing. But I feel for the KKR management because I would think that they splashed for him knowing that they were getting a 2-in-1 deal where they were getting an all-rounder. And so to not have his services with the ball is definitely going to impact their balance as well. Because like I said earlier in the pod, they don't have a strong bowling attack right now. And they need experience from anywhere, given the injuries that they have as well. I know they have the experience of Sunil Narayan, but he's a spinner. But they need some experience in the pace bowling department, and Cam Green can give them that, but he has to bowl.
I totally agree there. Now, I guess we can quickly talk about. So go ahead. Yeah.
Just on Cam Green, there's talk this has splashed the internet. So there's talk that if he's not able to bowl, should KKR should get some sort of a refund on what they splashed on him. What do you think about that?
I think you can't get a refund on a human being. If he's not bowling, he's not bowling. If he's injured, he's injured. You still pay the guy, right? I don't know. At least those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think you just gotta deal with the consequence at that point, especially if a player is injured. Like I don't really know the clauses with injury, but I would
Yeah,
think if a player is injured, that's just bad luck. Now, can you apply that same logic to when a management tells the team that you can't bowl because of certain reasons? How does that play out? So it's an interesting conversation. I don't know how I feel about it personally. I think that if you acquire the services of a player and you did not know that his bowling services or part of his services are not available, then I feel that there has to be some compromise. But if you knew that and knew that going in and you splash that much on him, then that's on you. So
I
that's how I
agree.
see it.
I agree. I agree. With the exception of, and I think maybe you mentioned this, with the exception of if it's a genuine injury, then it's a genuine injury, and whatever the clause is for injuries should apply. Whatever that is, where if you don't play, whatever. But if it's an injury, then I think it's unfortunate, and maybe should have been disclosed if it was something that's been there for a while. But if it's not, then you know, God's plan. And looking ahead really quickly at sort of the next few games coming down this week. First and foremost, we got the matchup of the losers. We got KKR versus SRH. Who do you think's gonna get better? Which bowling is gonna show up tomorrow?
Where are they playing? Are they playing at the Eden Gardens? Because that looks like an absolute road right now.
And they are
They are. That's gonna be just leather flying all over the place. I feel bad for the bowlers. I
Abhishek
could see
Sharma.
the Yeah, I could see the top orders of both teams just having a field day. It might be a 250 plays 250 type match where because you got firepower on KKR's top order as well. Ron is looking good. Finn
Yeah.
Allen is bound to perform, especially on a Friday. So yeah, I think it'll be a high scoring game.
No, looking forward to that. And then obviously, skipping ahead to Saturday, we got Delhi Capitals versus Mumbai Indians in Delhi. Obviously, we talked about Mitchell Stark obviously being injured, but we talked about how good the bowling lineup is for DC, as well as how well rounded Mumbai is. Maybe a little bit more leaning better on the batting side, but that's a good matchup Saturday as well.
Yeah, probably a preview of a potential playoff matchup. And I know it's so early in the season, but these two teams are looking real good right now. And I think we may get a preview of what's to come. I feel it's going to be a close battle. I hope we see a little bit of seesaw in it. Maybe we get last over finish or better yet, a super over. But these two teams are capable of pulling something like that off.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually really interested to see how Delhi Capital's batting approaches because obviously, them playing this week, not obviously the best. We saw Rahul first ball out to Mohammad Shami, which again, stories write themselves. Mohammad Shami back, getting his first wicket out against Rahul. David Miller a little bit light as well on runs. They wanted to play. They wanted to play some Akshar Patel. Obviously, they don't want to play Nisanka. Nisanka obviously short on runs as well. So I think DC batting needs to show up at least the top order.
Yeah, and I think they'll find a way. It was surprising to see their number four, Samir Rizvi, who I don't know if you noticed when they played LSG today, there was a replay of Hemang Badani, the coach of Delhi, running down the stairs and asking or telling Miller not to go into bat because Miller was slotted to go in next to number four, and they put in Rizvi and turned out to be a masterstroke. Came out with a 70. So that was cool to see. It was definitely a surprise performance. I wouldn't have expected him to play the match or have the match that he did. But I think one of those top three, I have question marks over Nitish Rana. Uttam
Mhm.
Nissanka, I think he'll come good. KL Rahul's KL Rahul. And you have Akshar Patel in there in that top five. Tristan Stubbs suddenly is looking like one of the players on this DC team when it comes to batting. He gives you stability at six. He looks so
Yes.
calm in the partnership with Rizvi. And he did this in the SAT20 as well. He did this in the T20 World Cup where he looked real good in pressure situations, and he seemed to have upped his game in the last year or so. If you remember, he did run into some loss of form before the SAT20. I think it was when I forget what the series was, but I remember he had a string of low scores, and suddenly he found a bout of form, and hopefully he keeps it up for DC because he could be a pivotal batter at that number six spot for them.
Yeah, I was really impressed by his ability to, I think, play a little bit of against his grain. He's usually like really aggressive, really, hitting the ball, but he played really smartly in that partnership with Rizvi. But yeah, definitely, I think the combination, whatever combination DC puts out Saturday, and whatever combination I think Mumbai puts out Saturday, I think it will be a blockbuster match because it would literally be, I think, some of the finest players in the IPL, even in the world, really.
One talking point that I've already noticed, and probably this is a trend in most IPL seasons, is when a team's uncapped, unknown Indian player performs well, it immediately elevates the team because now generally the foreign players are expected to put up performance, and they generally do for the most part. Right? They're generally able to win games here and there, at least a couple games a season. But when you have uncapped players, like for example Samir Rizvi, when they put up their hands and wins games, I feel like those are like bonuses for teams. And so when you're able to have your uncapped players win a game for you, I feel that puts you ahead because now you can definitely bank on your more experienced players to get you a game or two, and that gives you the edge over other teams.
No, I think you're really right about that. I think the teams where those type of players perform well end up having long runs, and you kind of remember those players as well because if you look a little historically as well, a lot of those players who consistently turn matches on their heads ended up playing for India. You look at a Rinku Singh, for example, classic example. You look at the one season actually Natarajan had where he ended up bowling in Australia. He had that season where he consistently was that difference. And I think we kind of saw that a little bit last season. I think it was Shashank
Hardik
Singh
Pandya as
or
well. Shashank
Hardik Pandya,
Singh,
right?
yeah,
So you
Ashutosh Sharma. There's a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
names like that. Yeah.
yeah, there's a bunch of names like that. So I think you're right, though. It's really exciting to see the new crop of players come in, and hey, it's great for Indian domestic cricket because one, it allows you to have the longevity in professional cricket, and second, it puts you right up there, rightfully or wrongfully, I don't know where, on top of there when it comes to consideration for the national side.
Yeah, and this is what makes the IPL so popular, and makes it such a amazing league in the cricketing world because it gives uncapped players, especially Indian players, the opportunity to showcase themselves to then move forward into higher honors, as we mentioned.
Yep, just again another great story of the IPL.
All right, so that brings us to a wrap of week one. We can't wait for the games coming up in the upcoming week. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, that stops.